The man who signed a reported $300 million deal to join LIV Golf, the man who became the face of a Saudi-backed revolution, has just broken his silence in a way that nobody expected. Jon Rahm, the two-time major champion and reigning LIV Golf individual champion, has finally addressed the elephant in the room. LIV Golf's future hangs by a thread, and nobody knows what comes next. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund is pulling its funding at the end of 2026, leaving the league scrambling for survival. But instead of panic, instead of regret, Rahm has delivered a message of faith, defiance, and brutal honesty that has left fans stunned. He's refused to rule out investing his own money in the league. He's admitted he doesn't see many ways out of his ironclad contract. And he's revealed that he has no regrets about joining LIV, even as the league he signed up for crumbles around him. The news hit the golf world like a thunderbolt. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, the organization that had poured billions into LIV Golf since its launch in 2022, announced it would withdraw its financial backing at the end of the 2026 season. The decision sent shockwaves through professional golf. For 4 years, LIV had been the disruptor, the challenger, the league that threatened to tear the PGA Tour apart. Now, it was facing an existential crisis. The PIF statement was clinical. PIF has made the decision to fund LIV Golf only for the remainder of the 2026 season. The substantial investment required by LIV Golf over a longer term is no longer consistent with the current phase of PIF's investment strategy. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, which had spent an estimated $5.3 billion on the league since its inception, was pulling the plug. Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the PIF governor who had championed LIV from the beginning, was no longer listed as the league's chairman. For the players who had left the PGA Tour for guaranteed money, the news was devastating. Brooks Koepka had already returned to the PGA Tour under a returning member program. Patrick Reed was planning to reinstate his membership for 2027. But Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and others were still under long-term contracts with LIV, contracts that were reportedly ironclad. The future was suddenly uncertain, and the golf world was demanding answers. What made the news even more shocking was that players had been assured the opposite. Rahm revealed that he had been told there would be PIF funding for the league for many years. Honestly, I think the initial news and the rumors over there in Mexico, since we're in a tournament week, I almost just tried to act as if it was just rumors, Rahm said. Because we're competing, I didn't want to waste any energy on an already demanding week thinking about it. For me, the reality kind of came afterwards. I would say, like everybody, I was surprised. Obviously, it was unexpected. We did hear the news that there would be funding for many years. Perhaps the most shocking revelation came when Rahm was asked whether he would consider investing his own money in LIV Golf to help keep it afloat. His response stunned everyone. I know Scott is doing a lot of work trying to find developers, and there's many ways around that, Rahm said, referring to LIV CEO Scott O'Neill. As far as putting my money into it, they had not asked me to do that yet, so I don't know if they will or not. When pressed on whether he would consider the idea, Rahm delivered a bombshell. Something I've learned in life: never say never. I'm not going to say absolutely no to anything that can happen in the future. The statement sent shockwaves through the golf world. Jon Rahm, who has earned more than $400 million from LIV, was refusing to rule out becoming an investor in the league. It was a sign of just how committed he is to making LIV work, or how desperate the situation had become. I have faith in the work that they're doing, Rahm reiterated. I have faith that they're going to come up with a good plan. For Rahm, the commitment to LIV is not just philosophical, it's contractual. Speaking at the PGA Championship, Rahm confirmed that he remains under a long-term deal with LIV Golf, one that he sees no easy way out of. Right now, I have several years of my contract left, Rahm said. I'm pretty sure they did a pretty good job when they drafted that, so I don't see many ways out. The contract, reportedly worth at least $300 million when he signed in December 2023, has made him the world's highest-paid golfer for 3 consecutive years. Forbes estimates Rahm earned $111 million in the last 12 months alone, including $101 million from prize money and on-course bonuses and $10 million from off-course earnings. But the golden handcuffs are not just about money. Rahm rejected the chance to return to the PGA Tour through the returning member program that Brooks Koepka accepted. He chose to stay with LIV, and now he is living with the consequences. As LIV's future became uncertain, Rahm quietly began positioning himself for life after the breakaway league. In May 2026, he reached an agreement with the DP World Tour that would allow him to retain his membership and remain eligible for next year's Ryder Cup at Ottery Manor in Ireland. The deal required Rahm to pay all outstanding fines for playing in conflicting tournaments, approximately £2.5 million, $4.7 million, and to play in agreed DP World Tour events in the remainder of the year. The DP World Tour and Jon Rahm have come to an agreement on conditional releases to play in conflicting tournaments on LIV Golf during the remainder of its 2026 season, a DP World Tour spokesperson said. This involves payment of all outstanding fines accrued from 2024 to date, along with participation in agreed DP World Tour tournaments outside the majors in the remainder of the 2026 season. The agreement was a significant U-turn for Rahm, who had previously accused the DP World Tour of extorting players. But with LIV's future in doubt, the balance of power had shifted. Rahm needed the DP World Tour for Ryder Cup eligibility, and he was willing to pay the price. We were able to reach an agreement. There were some concessions on both sides. I offered some. They extended an olive branch. Obviously, we've reached an agreement. That will not be a stress anymore, Rahm said. The deal also opened the door for Rahm to return to PGA Tour events. He is set to compete in the Genesis Scottish Open, a co-sanctioned event, marking his first PGA Tour appearance since joining LIV. It's such a great week that, if the schedule had allowed, I think many of us would have tried to play, Rahm said of the Scottish Open. It's a fantastic event, and I think a lot of us, if given the opportunity, are going to continue to play in the events that we like to play. The Scottish Open appearance is part of Rahm's broader strategy to map out his schedule while balancing family commitments. He is planning to play Ireland, Wentworth, and hopes to play the Dunhill and Spanish Open, though the birth of his 4th child in October could force changes. I've already talked to them and asked, listen, if I can arrive Thursday morning, I'll tee off in the afternoon, so maybe we wait until the last moment, Rahm said. But then, otherwise, I'll have to play most likely Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Those would be the events I have in mind. Perhaps the most revealing part of Rahm's response was his refusal to express regret about joining LIV. I would say I've made a lot of decisions in my life, and I've never gone back thinking, oh, had I known this again, I would do X and Y different, Rahm told BBC Sport. If I lived my life like that as a golfer, I would be a very pessimistic person. When asked what he had learned from the decision to join LIV, Rahm offered a cryptic response. That is for me to know. He pushed back against the narrative that his defection was a way to force a merger between LIV and the PGA Tour. I was never thinking that I was going to be any sort of weight that would tip the scales to make things come together, Rahm said. That was never an argument in my mind. When asked if that was the case for people to come together, that would be great. I never made a decision based on that. At the time of his move, Rahm had suggested he understood the weight of his decision. I could be the start of a tipping point in that sense, he had said. I understood the weight that my decision could have and the impact it could have. I understood that perfectly, and that's why it wasn't an easy decision. But 2 years later, he distanced himself from that interpretation. I was never like thinking that I was going to be any sort of weight that would tip the scales to make things come together, he repeated. Rahm's refusal to look back with regret is consistent with his life philosophy. Whatever decision you've made or choice is thought through and made for the reasons that you think are proper reasons, there's no sense in dwelling on it, he said. In fact, you shouldn't really be unhappy about it. At least there's nothing that you regret. If the terms change afterward, like it's happened with LIV, that things change a little bit, it's an afterthought, not a problem from the choice. Rahm acknowledged that the uncertainty surrounding LIV's future will require compromises from the players. I do believe that for the business plan to change, whatever they're coming up with, there will need to be some concessions on our part, Rahm said. It's a team effort. It's not about one person agreeing or not. We all, as captains and team owners and players involved in the league, need to, in essence, have a large majority to agree on for it to work. But Rahm also made it clear that he is not the one who needs to fix the league. Out of the few talents I have in my life, fixing a business is not one of them. I might be the worst person for that, Rahm told BBC Sport. My job is to play golf, luckily. I'm decent at it, and that's what I can focus on. It's the people in charge of LIV, whose job I do not envy for a second. It's their job to fix it. For now, Rahm is focused on the Genesis Scottish Open and next week's Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. He is one of 6 LIV Golf players in the field, alongside Tyrrell Hatton, David Puig, Laurie Cantor, Tom McKibben, Adrian Meronk, and Victor Perez. The event is a rare opportunity for LIV players to compete against the likes of Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. I think it's a great test for next week, Rahm said of the Scottish Open. You're not only playing the type of golf you need to be playing, you're also playing a world-class field. As far as strength of field goes, it does feel like you have 2 majors in a row without being a major. It's that good. It speaks to how good this event is for all these players to come in here. Jon Rahm has done what he always does, speak his mind. His refusal to rule out investing in LIV, his admission that he doesn't see many ways out of his contract, and his insistence that he has no regrets about joining the league have sent shockwaves through professional golf. But his words also raise uncomfortable questions. If LIV collapses, where does Rahm go? The PGA Tour would require a suspension of at least a year and a massive fine for him to even be considered for a return. Unlike Brooks Koepka, who accepted the PGA Tour's returning member program, Rahm declined the offer. He will not have the same privileges. The DP World Tour deal has given him a lifeline, but it's not a permanent solution. He has agreed to pay millions in fines and play in specified events, but those are short-term fixes. The long-term question remains, what happens to Jon Rahm if LIV Golf disappears? Rahm insists he's not worried. My job is to play golf, and that's what I can focus on, he said. I have faith in the work that they're doing. I have faith that they're going to come up with a good plan. Until that plan is explained to us, it's not that there isn't anything to worry about, but I don't think I need to add any attention to it. One thing is certain. The man who once had the golf world at his feet is now navigating the most uncertain period of his career. And as he prepares for the Genesis Scottish Open and the Open Championship, he is showing the world that he is still one of the best players on the planet. The questions now are impossible to ignore. Will Rahm actually invest his own money in LIV? Can the league survive without Saudi funding? And what does his journey say about the state of professional golf?